year, what struck me is that Abraham in this story has been here before. And you might be in this place thinking, we've been here before. This is the same. You might be experiencing pain in your life and be thinking, we've had this before. We know what this is like. We know what this feels like. And it seems to me in this story, various stories where Abraham is involved, he's either expecting peace and then experiencing loss, or he's extending sacrifice and experiencing gain, living in that promise of God as he extends sacrifice. It strikes me when I reviewed some of the places where Abraham has lost family, because actually that happens a lot for Abraham, where he might think to himself, I've been here before. The initial call of God to him was, leave your family, go to somewhere I'm going to show you, go to this promised land. But the good news was God came with him, right? And Lot too. So he had that, he didn't leave all of his family. Some of his family came with him. But then prosperity struck. Not tragedy, prosperity. Prosperity struck. And with that came the loss of Lot. Lot separated. At that time, no, there's my last family. And he might have been again thinking, well, who's going to be heir of my household now? What's even the point of this promised land that God says will go to my descendants? One of my closest kin has gone, separated. But then, the previous chapter that we just looked at, chapter 14 that we looked at last week, Abraham goes on a rescue mission, doesn't he? 318 people from his household, a mighty household, goes in rescue of Lot, his nearest living kin. And they rescue him. And Lot can surely see that his life of riches in awful Sodom is not worth anything. We don't hear what happens to Lot in this chapter, but it seems very likely to me that Lot has gone, because we see him later turned up in Sodom. So it looks like Abraham rode into the rescue, doing what God would have wanted. He receives back his nephew, but his nephew's just going to go again. And it seems to me that in today's story, Abraham might be thinking, I've felt this pain before. He's gone again. And you, God, what can you do for me? Now, I don't think he says it quite as rudely as that, but he does verbalise the question, more or less. What can you do? So if we're thinking at this point in the year, as we maybe reflect back on the year that's been, and we think of what's ahead in the year to come, we might think, I've felt this pain before. This has happened before. Was God in it then? And I think God was in it then for Abraham. I think God was with him then. We might want to lift it up before him and say, can you be in it now? Can you carry me through now? So that we're not just asking the question, God, can you do anything about it? But we're really pressing, God, what will you do about it? Be here for me now. When God is with us in sacrifice, God is also with us in reward. We see the theme of sacrifice come up in this chapter. But Abraham might have just been thinking about loss. There are times when Abraham just lost things, like Lot. You might have been thinking, what was the good of that? What good possibly came out of that? Losses can be sacrifices. They can be. There can be times to offer the circumstances of God, but they're not automatically sacrifices. They can just be loss. They can just be destruction. They don't always have to be. Because sacrifices, what's the difference between sacrifice and loss? Well, sacrifice surely is achieving something. Sacrifices surely are given, right? And you might think, well, it's going to happen anyway. In what sense can it be given? Well, there's something of an attitude about sacrifice, isn't there? Something of an intention of, I'm going to place this before you, God. Even if I don't have any choice in the matter, I can still trust you in it. Sacrifices are given losses for God or for others. We can sacrifice for others too. But in this chapter, I think we're looking at what sacrifice before God looks like. So, I think Abraham is calling to mind the things of the past as well. God is intentionally doing so. When Lot was called to leave his family and go to where God called him, and Lot came too, God says, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. There's purpose here. There's something you're really meant to do. The loss will be worth it. Can we make it sacrifice which God can bless? God is with you in the hurt, with you in Ur. He has other sacrifices still to make. He was initially called to leave his family and go. Lot separated in prosperity. Lot separated after rescue. He probably didn't see that one coming. He might have thought, oh, now maybe we'll get on, be closer. There was loss in Ishmael. That's yet to come. It's going to be hard for Abraham to see Ishmael go. It's not going to be easy. And then he's going to sacrifice Isaac, or be asked to sacrifice Isaac. There's going to be a sense in which he's going to experience loss again, even for the one who's the child of promise. But he's going to receive him back too. So there's going to be a clear indication there of when Abraham does sacrifice well, he gives to God knowing what God will do, knowing he will receive back. Not because he's going to receive back, but knowing that the character of God is such. Knowing that God will be with him in the hurt, and that God is able to be that shield, that very great reward. This promise was spoken, therefore, to Abraham. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. Or it could be translated, I am your shield, your very great reward. Both are true. So there's a sense in which we don't need to separate them out. We can hold them together. Both are true. That God is the shield. God is the very great reward. Abraham will receive a very great reward. He will be close with God. God will be that reward. God will also give him things. That's also true. He is going to walk about in this land. He is going to be a friend of God for all time. God is going to give him those things that he requires. God speaks this promise over him, gives him a fresh word and a fresh vision. That too might be for us. Even when Abraham's next question is essentially, what can God possibly give me in this situation? What can God possibly do? This might be our question. We might think about our circumstances. We might think about our church or town or village. We might think about our family. We might think about a particular circumstance. We might think about those elsewhere in Syria or in Gaza or in Ukraine, and we might think, what can God possibly do? Whether close or far. And that is a common response of people experiencing tragedy, particularly those who haven't really felt it themselves, I think. Sometimes those who have felt it themselves, absolutely, but sometimes just commentators looking on that want to have disdain for God. They go, what's God doing about them? What's God doing about over here? But what we give is not lost. We're told in 1 Corinthians, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm, let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labour in the Lord is not in vain. For the Christian disciple, what is given is not lost. What is offered to God is not merely thrown to the vultures. It isn't. God is faithful and true. He is trustworthy. When we offer him our pain, that really is the best we can do. When we lift before him the sins and the pain of the world, he really is the one for whom we should be lifting that to. The one who can transform a sacrifice. The one who can make it truly what it should be, because Jesus made the sacrifice really what it ought to be. He felt the pain really as it should be felt. And he did away with the wrong really as it ought to be done away with. But who also brings resurrection life, who also brings a change to the circumstance, who doesn't just go, yes, that's pain, and that will be forever and ever. sorry, you're on your own. He doesn't do that. He says, that's pain, and he bears it with us. And he takes away the sin of the world. And he transforms with newness of life, with resurrection, and with hope. And so when his disciples were asking a very similar question, when Peter said, see, we have left everything and followed you, what then will we have? And that's an interesting question. Because imagine going to God and saying, we've left everything. What can you give me? How can he give you anything if you've left everything? Right? If you're leaving everything for him, what can he give you? But Jesus reorients their focus into what God will give them. And also how God will be there with them in this life. So there's another version of these verses that we can interpret as the family and friends that we have in this life through Christian brotherhood, right? Sisterhood. But here, Jesus clearly reorients them for what God will give them. That the promise is yet to be fulfilled. Jesus said to them, truly I say to you, in the new world, when the Son of Man will sit on his glorious throne. In other words, things are going to be different. He's not on a glorious throne now in the story. He's about to go to a cross. In the new world. New. Not like this. New. Remade. When the Son of Man, again, when? Certainty. When the Son of Man, God with us as a human being, will sit on his glorious throne. You who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or children or lands, those who have lost everything, for my sake, my name's sake, will receive 100-fold and will inherit eternal life. You won't just have it once, you'll have it forever. 100-fold. What can compare? It's not diminishing the pain either. Right? It's not just a swapsy. Right? You are going to get more and better. But the pain isn't diminished. The pain was really felt and really done away with on the cross. And Abraham believed him. What a wonderful example of faith. Isn't that a bit crazy? Abraham believed him. Wonderful. And God brought him outside and said, look toward heaven and number the stars, if you are able to number them. So he didn't just say, imagine the stars. He brought him outside. Right? That can be important. God does the stuff. He doesn't just talk about it, he does it. He's already done this as a case in point. He brought him outside, said, look at the stars. He didn't add, but I think it could be added, I made those. Aren't they good? Look at them. Look at how many. If God made those uncountable stars, he can do for you more than you can imagine. If you are able to number them, it's not within your ability, it's within mine, as if God's saying. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. I can make the uncountable happen. If I can make that out there, I can make life in you, through you, from you. And he believed the Lord. He didn't know how it would happen, but he believed him. And the Lord counted it to him as righteousness. Because Abraham didn't just believe that he could do it, he believed he would do it. Now that's a difference. Satan fundamentally believes God can do things, and he's afraid. But the difference with friends is you believe that they will do good for you, don't you? You believe they care. He believes not just that he can do it, but that he will do what he says, and what he says is friendship with Abraham. He's not an all-powerful unknowable, but rather God is here talking to him as a friend, having the conversation. Can we ask God to have the conversation with us? Lord, what should we do? How should we do it? Lord, I'm scared or worried or in pain about this. Lord, help me here. What can you do? Asked honestly and asked well. Asked of a friend. We ask a friend, what can you do for me? Can you help me? Can you do me a favour? Right? We ask that not thinking they're going to say, no, I hate you. That's the sort of conversation that is being had here. Lord, what can you do for me? And he believed him. Belief doesn't leave us in the dark, but it brings us out to count the stars. As his friend, he invites us to enjoy the light of every one of his promises. He was giving him a promise, and we are invited to count the stars. Look at the light of the promise. There are many in Scripture of the good that God will do for his people, of the new life that will be, the life that is the light of all mankind. Abram was not just someone who was nursing his losses, but instead living sacrificially, bearing those losses with God. And he said, "O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? What can you do to show me? How will I know I can trust you?" And God essentially says, do sacrifice. Bring me a sacrifice and we'll see how it works. You'll know. How am I to know? Sacrifice. And when birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away, because Abraham wasn't just throwing away his stuff. That wasn't what was happening here. He wasn't just cutting up his birds and his sheep and whatever, just to waste them. Sacrifice is not waste. And so when the vultures came down on the carcasses, Abram drove them away, because this wasn't loss. It was sacrifice. It was being given to God, not to vultures. It wasn't just there to rot, but it was there to transform. This is part of the process of transformation. Sacrifice. And some people scoff at giving to God because they think it's wasted. Why light candles and turn up at church? Why turn up early to pray? Because it's not loss. We're not speaking into the silence. We're speaking to our Lord. And last section, I think, is really worth reflecting on, because it is like Jesus. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. This is very like Jesus. We'll explore it in a moment. Then the Lord said to Abram, "Know for certain." How will I know? Do the sacrifice. Know for certain. Right? He experiences some knowledge of God and what God is like through the sacrifice. Know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs. That doesn't sound like the promise, does it? And they will be afflicted for 400 years. Sacrifice isn't putting an end to this loss. He's going to need to feel this loss. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they will come out with great possessions. There will be a reward. Perhaps longer than you would want to wait, 400 years. They will come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age, and they shall come back here in the 4th generation. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. So he gets told to do sacrifice and to believe that the promise will be fulfilled in time. It will be fulfilled. Later than he will live, but it will be fulfilled. And he's someone who believes God. In the new world, that's often what our promise is. God with us now, God with us forever. Some of it we won't see with our eyes, but we see with faith. But he shows us as well what sacrifice done rightly is, because Abraham's fast asleep. I'm not quite sure at which point he's able to hear this, right? Abraham's fast asleep with a deep sleep that God's put on him. How can he make the sacrifice? How can he burn up these animals? How can he offer this sacrifice? God offers the sacrifice. God comes down. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. He was meant to be the one walking between the pieces. He was meant to be the one, as Neil was pointed out to me previously, who was meant to be saying, "Make me like these pieces of animals that have been cut in half if I do wrong," or some such. He's meant to be making this oath before God, this sacrifice to God, saying, "I'm going to be like these pieces if I don't fulfill my side of it." But God puts him into a deep sleep, so he can't do that. And God offers the sacrifice in effect. God does it rightly. Abraham's there, but God's offering the sacrifice. God and man together making covenant. People with God. But it's not by Abraham's hand that the fire comes. It's by God's hand. So when the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces, saying, I'm going to end up like that. That's what Jesus does. He comes and he takes the place of the sacrifice. And he is the one on whom the judgment falls. God and humanity together, offering the sacrifice. The deep sleep, the dreadful great darkness fell upon Jesus. He was there as the one who did the sacrifice right on our behalf. So that, in verse 18, on that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram. So that on that day Jesus makes a covenant with us. He ratifies the covenant. He says, I will be the sacrifice. I will be the sacrifice from mankind's side. God will accept it, and there will be a new covenant, a new way of peace that is made in my blood. Let's believe it. Let's act as God's friend. And go, yes, thank you for offering that sacrifice that I could never offer, for taking away the judgment that I could never do. Something about the new world. It's from a blog I read a bit of. In Revelation 21:5 we read, And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, I am making all things new. God has declared that one day he will set all things right. A quote that I rather like, that I was looking for. Likewise, at the end of Return of the King, the Lord of the Rings book, Tolkien describes how evil has been vanquished and all things set right. This sentiment is best captured by one of Sam's statements in the book. After the ring is destroyed on Mount Doom, after the evil's been cast away, victory had, but they're still in great pain, actually. There's still much trouble in the land. Sam wakes up from his sleep surprised that Gandalf is alive, surprised that he is alive, surprised to see his friend. And he says, Is everything sad going to come untrue? What's happened to the world? He suddenly finds that his friend he thought was dead is alive again. We find that in Jesus, our friend who was put on the cross. He comes back to life and he brings others back to life with him. Is it even me that's alive? This is different than asking whether good things are going to come true. Rather, it's asking whether sad things are going to come untrue. That pain we felt, is it going to come untrue? Is there going to be a way in which we go, Lord, you are working through it? Thus, Sam's statement, like Christian eschatology, looking at the end, looking at how things will be, recognises that there is currently something very wrong with the world. It's a place that's filled with sadness, cursed by sin, groaning as it waits its redemption. But the good news is the curse will be rolled back. The world will be changed. So let's seek a vision and a fresh word from God today and into the future, into the new year. We're told, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. That's how this section started. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him. Abraham asks, he says, but Abraham said, and Abraham said, he asks, and the word of the Lord came to him. So let's seek that together. Let's seek fresh vision, fresh word from God, fresh application, learning from the past, and moving into the future, seeing how he wants us to act. I want today to be a much more reflective service, asking God, how are we called to travel together this year? What are we to see and hear from God together and in our own lives? So, we've got two songs in quick... No, we haven't. We've got one song. One song next. I will offer up my life in spirit and truth, that I hope is a suitable expression of those kind of things. Be thinking about what is it we offer up in spirit and truth, knowing what Jesus has done for us, offering up himself, his very life,